Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. How are you? How are you, as I like to say most Friday mornings. I'm working on my Cockney. I don't know if anyone out there can help me with that. Let me know. Tune in, comment today on the video. It's going to be great. It's always great when you comment and we can go back and forth. Tell us how your lives are and what's shaking in your world. There's a lot shaking in mine, so I'm sure there's a lot shaking in yours. This is 15. This is episode 15. We took a couple weeks off. We had a lot going on, boggling lives, getting kind of back in the flow of things with the music world. For me personally, Red Rebel kind of blew up. We got busier. The agency Mid-America Artists that I also own and run is kind of took off. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So we have a very special guest. He's also a longtime friend of mine, and I use him for a lot of video stuff in town. We collaborate on a lot of video projects. I myself do video as well, but we have a really great relationship and working together. So we've kind of helped each other's businesses out over the years. And I'm going to welcome him on the program right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rhett McClure. Hi, Rhett.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rhett McClure.
That voice is perfect for your name.
Rest in peace,
I love it.
Phil Hartman.
That's right. Rest in peace, Phil Hartman. That is the truth, man. How are you doing this morning, man? Great to see you.
I'm grand. I have a new product. It's a sparkling water with caffeine, and it's a little bit of a dark cherry coffee seltzer water with caffeine.
It's not the Bublé or Bubel or what is that stuff called? Michael Bublé changed the name for a commercial one time.
Yep.
It's not. Is it that stuff?
This is called Aha. I believe it's a Coca-Cola product. Not.
Oh no, it's not. It's not the Michael Bublé sponsored one.
Nope.
I know
he was
new. I only know that I was watching a documentary on David Foster last night, the famous music producer for Warner. Anyway, Michael Bublé showed up on a commercial, and he had changed with a permanent marker. He changed the name of this beverage, and I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know why we're talking about Michael Bublé all of a sudden, but
he's a small business.
He's a small business. He got pretty large, and David Foster discovered him. Good for him. He's doing okay. I wonder if he's doing okay now, though. I know that he's done okay in the past, but yeah, we can talk a little bit about that later and how the entertainment world has taken a hit. Of course, we all know that. But I wanted to get you on the program today to not only tell the world about your company, but I want to talk small business. I want to talk life, because you're kind of a go-getter yourself. You worked for a larger entity and then kind of changed your life and kind of became your own thing. I love that mentality. If you're able to do that, by all means, take the Nestea plunge and do it. That's kind of what I did. So tell us a little bit about Rhett McClure and Vizzyness. What is Vizzyness?
Vizzyness, it's a name I had in the back of my mind forever. And as I've researched down the Google hole, it's actually Scottish. Not that Scottish is a language, but it means to examine closely.
Oh, well, there you go.
This is dating back to castles where they were talking a little peephole. It was called the Vizzy hole.
The actual hole itself is called the Vizzy?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's
to look out for invaders.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I learned something new today. That's great. So it was kind of like their lookout hole, like to find out. So, okay,
there's metaphors with a camera, aperture, etc.
Trouble is on the way, kind of thing. Wow.
No, I meant from like peeping out, like documentary style marketing and adapting that to ancient Scottish folklore, invaders.
I get you. Yeah. Well, it makes sense to metaphorically put that on, even to examining things. I mean, that's what video really does. I mean, we see it in moving picture, and as we know from social media, videos have far better effect than a solo image, especially with 20% text rule, as we all know, with Facebook kind of gets hung up on that. But what I've noticed too is that the text, even now in the video, is kind of a problem. So have you noticed that with some of your, but you don't do a lot of social media stuff. Tell us who your key client is.
It's evolved a tiny bit. I honestly, one of the most fun clients I've had here in the shutdown, specifically a doctor's office. We just did a tiny little tour, the whole debate about how many masks, maybe not masked in every shot, because there are rooms where, yeah, the doctor-patient procedure would not require a mask. But yeah,
Gotcha.
Well, basically a website header video, and it was the first time I've literally been hired to do only that. But a lot of the times what I go out to do is interview style seems to be my forte. If I'm a chef, that's my specialty. Camera, 2 mics, light it.
Yeah. You and I worked together on some of the folks out there might know if they saw it. We did a Vietnam documentary on NET, and it was a interview style with some people that had spent some time over in Vietnam, and it correlated with a poetry group from Lincoln High, which I thought was an incredible idea. The youngsters interviewed the combat veterans and talked about their mentality, how different. That was fascinating. Wasn't that great?
Yeah, no, it was just rare that you get to see not just the generational aspect, but
right.
Kid in Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, they're going to Lincoln High doing their thing, and suddenly they're back in varying degrees of, I mean, we had a nurse, right? Versus a helicopter pilot. Like,
right.
Literally, what was your experience fighting, helping people in the Vietnam War?
It was truly generationally, for me, it was fascinating to see what a kid in this day and age goes through when they're 17 and 18, as opposed to what they went through in in early 60s, or at that time when the Vietnam War was starting to erupt, and how people were losing their friends back and forth and getting called to the office and saying, we're sorry, your father's not coming home, or whatever it may be. How the weight of it all was so different. And I thought that was really
last war where people actually got drafted versus voluntary.
Right. Exactly. The stories of evading the draft and how weird that got, and how the believers and non-believers. Yeah. It's crazy, man. Very strange. It assimilates to kind of what's happening now, because there's information that's misconstrued. You don't know what to believe. Propaganda can happen. Media sources are wacky. You just don't. I mean, I don't want to steer it to political. This interview's, I mean, it is what it is. But it is kind of a weird time. Like, you don't know what to believe. And every person that talks about media sources, we're supposed to turn to what's called the news for actual news, and when that's fake, it can become such a bizarre world to live in on either side. It doesn't matter if you're a Trumpster, if you're not, if you don't care, it doesn't matter. So
the thing I'm the most proud of is the kids driving the current momentum. Like, literally, it's them and their phone, and they can broadcast anything live. Where 22-year-old soldier coming home from Vietnam had seen some stuff and had any socially acceptable way to get out that conversation and process, and some messed up stuff happened. I didn't want to do it, but you're part of the machine at that point. At least now you can tell your story for real.
Yeah, there was it's fascinating. I'm trying to put myself, think about myself when I was 17 or 18, and kind of what I would think about all this if it was happening, to me. And I think about one of my neighborhood neighbors. They were talking to me kind of after the 10/11 had broadcast, for 2 or 3 days. People were glued to the news stations watching live the protests and the rioting going on. And she had said to me, I said, how you doing? And did you watch last night, or have you been paying attention to some of these riots going on? And she said, oh yeah, I was watching and I saw my son inside of a gas station. And I said, oh my gosh, and she's a white woman. And I just couldn't believe that feeling of being a parent and seeing your kid down there. But, and she said, he's a good kid. He just happened to be a part of it. And I'm like, wow, this is where we're at.
I'm glad my kiddos are toddlers and I can tell them when to go to bed versus a 16-year-old with libido would be a little bit different.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think about myself in high school and kind of, being rambunctious and kind of cruising we used to go cruising the strip, in Grand Island. That was the big thing to do. And thankfully we stayed out of trouble as best we could. But man, it's just a wacky time. A lot of temptation goes into that, I would think, or I would also throw the word ignorance into that mix. However, but yeah, there is some good people and smart people and very intelligent people doing some of the protesting. And I believe in protesting. It's our constitutional right. And I think they should do that. I think that we've already seen change. We've already seen great things happen, but what is your mentality with the video documentation of all this? I bet this kind of really thrills you to see some of this documentation happening on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah. Qualdom Creations. I noticed him maybe the first night, and I mean, you can tell right away the kid has had some training, and I just turned 25, I think. But compared to a lot of the other people that would just put up the phone as a slice of life, he was calling it play-by-play as maybe not impartial, but it was fascinating to watch his play-by-play call about energy and just kind of revving up the crowd as more like a sports announcer that was not really was there to observe and say, the people are calling out no justice, no peace. Fascinating, like Howard Cosell for a new generation.
Right. And he actually had a very professional demeanor. I think he even mentioned wanting to be, his dream and goal in life was to be a news broadcaster. He wanted to work for, what did he say, CNN or something? I don't remember which one he threw out, but there was a couple different things he threw out that his dream was to be, this broadcaster that would put himself in quote unquote harm's way, perhaps, maybe, or just be right there where the action is. And you're right. He had a great demeanor about him. He was super fun.
I think they've taken it to the next level. I know he just announced they're going to have an office in Turbine Flats. So next level. Yeah.
Wow. Good for him. Great.
And I know he's been going through all the archives, like a little worried about some of the footage disappearing on Facebook, so he's archived all that, and they're talking about a documentary.
Oh wow!
I'm going to drop in and say hi.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on the show, actually. And I've actually personally reached out to him and said, way to go, and I think you're doing a great job. And I did hear, however, the sad part about his story is I believe his father was killed by a police officer, if I'm not mistaken, or at least there was something to do. He had lost his father in Omaha.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the circumstance, but it was very sad. So that I can see his energy behind that and feel that. So that was really fascinating to see and hear. So, well, tell us about kind of your world now, and in the midst of, not only this arisen aggression and oppression and whatever, all this energy is happening and all these emotions are just wacky right now. Not only mention we're a few months away from an election, so that heightens things. And then all of a sudden it's prefaced by this pandemic. So tell us about your business in the midst of all this. How has it changed your world?
I mean, it's evolved. The first couple estimates where I was writing down how many hours I would be in a room. And to their credit, the client was like, this is a giant conference room. It would be just you and the interviewee. You could set it up all ahead of time. And when you're ready to film, you can step back however close you need to be and do an interview. And I was like, yeah, that's best case scenario for our new normal, to overuse that word. But
now, was that pretty early on into all of it, or was it recently? Or
that was late March when
so that
there were a lot of questions. I'm just thinking of the first time I had to do an estimate for a pandemic shoot.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Yeah, that was probably the height of the paranoia at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since then, just trying to be common sense. I mean, I've got people I love with autoimmune disorders, etc. So wanting to be respectful of going out to get the bread and the bacon and bringing it home with nothing extra on top.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's, as we see the cases rise, it doesn't help, especially with the 4th of July, they already said that it was like, I think up 150% for, explosive injuries and firework injuries. And so I have a feeling fit's going to hit the shan, so to speak. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But, there's I think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you've read, but like many of the fireworks shows have canceled.
Yeah.
I believe there is still one happening on Capitol Beach, which is a private thing, but you can probably still see it from a distance. So that's kind of a bummer. So I think people's lives are going to probably, from past years alter a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, without being hysterical about anything, yeah, we're looking at June 2021 for a vaccine is a realistic estimate. So I have changed a little bit. I've thought about going back into trying to do some more voiceover stuff. I've been editing more than shooting for sure on things that you can tell the marketing wizards' brains are spinning on how do we do what we need to do to talk to people about our product, our message, how that's changed. So there's a lot of marketing people that have now become Zoom meeting experts on. There could still be some better.
That would be me. What you're seeing now is completely new. I never ever in my whole entire life thought I would be a Dick Cavett, but here I am. Right. And not to compare to the great Dick Cavett, but I am talking to people similarly in a similar fashion. But it's crazy. It's changed my world. It's completely kind of gone upside down. Thankfully, business is doing all right, and we actually kind of picked up, which was great. But yeah, new things and new ways of creating. And I think guys like you and I, we have a sense about that, and we can pivot maybe, and kind of figure out ways to hustle, as they say. But tell us, I want to kind of dig into the Rhett McClure onion, if you will. And I want to go way back because I met you. I vaguely remember meeting you in college, way back. And because you hung out with a lot of, now we will call them, I will call them Wahooians. Is that correct? Or is it Wahooans? Or what is the word?
Wahoovian. I've heard Wahhooligan.
Oh, well, so this is great, because I know and love so many people from Wahoo, and I don't know what it is about Wahoo, but there's a lot of great people from Wahoo, very creative people, extremely smart people. So obviously they had a great school system there that raised children and a lot of great parents there. But I've come to know and love and befriend a ton of Wahoo hooligans. I'm going to use that one. Now you are from Wahoo.
Guilty.
Tell us guilty as charged. I remember, and this is how I remember you. I remember you working with a friend named Luke Restermeyer, and you were making movies in college. Luke had
Yeah.
a drive for cinema. He had a love for cinema. He was also in an acting program that I was in at the University of Nebraska. That's how I met Luke. And Luke used to, he'd show up in a leather coat. He had a pompadour about 8 inches tall, and he loved punk rock. And he walked in, and it was like, one of those movies where like the smoke behind him would, he'd walk in and stop and light a cigarette right before class. And he was like this kind of guy. And when I met him, we hit it off talking about music and had a connection with music. But then I go, why is this guy in an acting class learning Shakespearean sonnets? This is bizarre. So he pulled me aside one day and he goes, I heard that you played drums. I heard that you like music. And I said, yes, I currently play drums, but I play on pots and pans because I had just auditioned for Stomp in New York. And and I was technically cast, and I was out there for about 6 weeks. And I came back, and he said, we need a drummer in our punk rock band called Hootenanny. And I said, okay, well, that sounds awesome. Let's see what happens. And so at that point, I kind of fell into that crowd. I got the gig. I got the job as a drummer for Hootenanny. We played all over Nebraska. It was super fun, but met all these great people. And you were one of those people that kind of branched off 6 degrees of separation from that center core of the Wahooligans that I hung out with. But you were making film. Can you tell us about that? I'm very interested in some of those early movies you guys were making.
Yeah, kind of stumbled upon that. Basically, a younger kid who's now my business partner remembered me from Hinky Dinky, and I was trying to place like, why would I know this kid? And then we did the math on the age, and I'm like, oh, you were 8.
Oh, yeah.
When he remembered me at 16 or 18, he was 8 or 10.
Just so everybody knows, the Hinky Dinky in Wahoo is like the epicenter of everything. I mean, that was like the one grocery store. That was, back then Hinky Dinkies were huge, and then survived for a long time, I believe. Like actually longer than most.
Yeah.
So,
Hinky Dinky and Luke Restermeyer's family owned the Dairy Queen half a block north of that.
That's right. Where we also played one of our largest shows ever inside the Dairy Queen. And there was
next
like
to the arcade machines, right? 400.
There was like 400 kids, like all over, like in the parking lot. They couldn't even fit them all in there. Like it was spilling out of the Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Maybe not 400, but at least 200. I mean, there was a ton of kids there. Every kid, from the surrounding towns like Prague and all the, all the little towns, the arteries that exist around Colon. Yeah, Colon's a good one.
Malmo.
Tons of very bohemian, very like a lot of Czech little towns in there. Tons of Czech stuff going on. The name Rezach, is some of the names you hear are just there's so many of them. Oh, the Rezach, Reza. Oh, you from what? You always link it back to Wahoo somehow, some way. So that's fascinating. So So you were making kind of little quirky films. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I'm talking.
Yeah. No, you've got the rabbit hole hyperlinks going too. Rustemeyer was in the very first film that AB Productions was Jake Hull and Seth Requenes' company. That they had made one feature before I joined. After that, Luke Restermeyer was in every single AB Productions short or feature until the last one. The one that actually won Omaha Film Festival, Nebraska Short, Best Nebraska Short. But then our last one, he was a prisoner in the backseat of my dad taxi, and it was set in the year 2020 when all the water was gone from the Ogallala Aquifer, and these two hooligans were picked up trying to scavenge water on their own.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's amazing that you came up with that storyline, because that's an actual real thing, right? Or at least it's threatened by this wicked pipeline. But yeah, so that's crazy. Wow, interesting storyline. So who wrote a lot of the stuff? Who conceptualized it?
Jake is our writer of the group. That last short about the pipeline, alien life has been revealed, but not officially implemented into martial law is our that
I
was
see.
completely improv. I gave a description of the character and key plot points, and we drove around and had our drone. First project I had ever worked with a drone.
Oh, wow. Wow. What year was this? What year are we talking here?
We shot this the 2 days before the election, fall 2016.
Okay. So not too, okay. Recent. Okay.
So
Sounds good.
my vision of what 2020 would become.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You weren't too far off.
And
That's
shooting
great.
it before the election, I had a sinister overtone, and it went a completely different way.
Wow, fantastic. Well, you and I have worked together on videos, and I love working with you because you're just willing to take turns, and you're willing to kind of move that way no matter what, and at least to try it, which is great for a videographer. And now, we're seeing, and I may have mentioned this on the program before, but we're seeing now that a lot of film, like cinematic film, you and I are talking sometimes about local film, working with businesses, but now there's cinematic film, like big budget stuff coming to Fremont, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And as of yesterday, my company, Mid America Artists, just changed the life of one Native American girl. She was cast, and I probably can't talk about it too much, but these things are happening, and and the budgets are not small. These are enormous cinematic projects. So there's multi-million-dollar projects coming, to Fremont, Nebraska, if you can believe it, because of the tax incentives that they've figured out how to combat Pete Ricketts and his seemingly anti-tax incentive for cinema. And I believe the story goes is that his dad did a film with I think he backed financially a film and it lost its butt. Yeah. And from that point on, he just said, never again.
It's not a trustworthy industry to him.
Right. Down with the arts. Yeah.
Where it's funny in investments, they always say at the bottom, all investments may or may not make money or lose money. It's weird. It's a risk.
Right. Right. It's a risk. Yeah. And that can happen, especially in the movie industry. That's why it's good to invest in multiple films, and when you hit it big, you hit it big. But yeah, that's an interesting avenue to how they discovered in a small town like Fremont how to bring tax incentives nationally to these films, and now people are catching wind of it, and now they're wanting to bring their creative money to Nebraska and use it, which is huge for us, for jobs, for culture, to kind of wrap Nebraska back into film. So I think it's a great thing. So so tell us about your connection with that. I know you're kind of tied into some Nebraska film groups. Can you tell us about that?
This will be my 19th year as part of Nebraska Independent Film Projects, as a local nonprofit. And basically I describe it as getting people together and making stuff, basically networking and a little bit of professional development. The people that want to make their own feature and post it, and holy cow, has that changed in 19 years. But a lot of what we're pushing is best practices on people getting the best equipment, what's available, scripting, how to tell a story in 3 acts. I mean, the basics of be the equivalent of building your own house, but in an artistic sense, like good foundation, wrap it up with a pretty bow. Basically, my goal in getting more than just low mid funds, because that's tied to what city you're trying to film in. Oklahoma has an Office of Film and Music, and a little bit due to the Flaming Lips and Hinder. Hinder is the big other rock band that you can make fun of in Oklahoma City. They have the best incentives outside of New Mexico and California. There's me directing a live stream on an iPad. We've done a bunch of different events at Turbine Flats.
Yep.
And Matt Wagner.
This is I pulled up the Facebook page for the Nebraska Independent Film project, and you can kind of see
that was live capturing Dorothy as a 3D object. And by the end of the meeting, we had turned her into a morphing vampire. She morphed from human form to vampire. We didn't get it rendered by the end of the live stream meeting, but we started with nothing except the model of the vampire, captured her as a 3D model, and it was supposed to be literally we motion captured her motion and mapped it to the 3D figure. That's Andrew Johnson's baby all the way.
That is great. That is super fun. That Dorothy Borum, yeah. Fantastic. She's a fantastic videographer here in Lincoln as well. And she does
rocks.
She does a lot of horror movies. I've worked with her in the past. She's a fantastic person.
Yeah.
Her and Chad are kind of a team with their business, and great people.
Third Rail.
So, yeah, that's right. Third Rail. Yep. This is cool. This is neat. I've not thumbed through these.
Yeah, that was back, I want to say November, and then we did one last live stream Christmas party where we gave away 2 Mac Pros that I got donated. And I basically put an SSD in it and made them as new as they're going to get. But that's the new hot rod platform now that everything's a laptop. Surprisingly, for a 11, 12-year-old computer, like, you can cram a modern graphics card in there, and with a couple of hacks, depending on how risky you want to be, even run the most Mojave, most latest edition.
That's pretty cool.
What you're looking at there is a pitch example of people telling what their creative idea was, and we gave a little feedback at the end. That was a couple years ago. That was cool. There's me looking confused in an AB shirt.
So you guys, as a nonprofit, you do some really great events, it looks like.
Yeah, we have one big event per year.
Okay.
And have gone back and forth between having a meeting in person every month. The internet has changed a lot of that, even pre-corona, but the webpage has gone through some evolution as well. We got our original 4-digit domain name kind of got hijacked by a Jamaican company, I believe, stole it. So we are now nifpmediaarts.org.
Wow, weird. Okay.
There's weirder stories, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome, man. I'm glad we got to talk about this. I need to be, I tell you this a lot, I feel like, but I need to be more involved in this group. It's a great group, and I love what you guys do. And you know, there's a ton of small film ideas that sprout from this, and a lot of local film activity that happens from this, and I love that. Respect. This is a film festival. Now it looks like quite a while, maybe 5 years ago. But tell us
more
about,
than that. There's kids in these pictures that have babies now.
Okay, so this is at the Joyo.
At the Joyo, the last year we did that was 2004.
And you and I have talked about this a lot. How there isn't a film festival locally, not one that I know of.
Yeah, Prairie Pride finally went virtual this year as well.
Okay,
they were going to do the Jocelyn. That was the only other one besides Lincoln Calling had their film project.
Right.
Omaha Film Festival up the road, and Film Streams does a local Nebraska/Iowa filmmaker showcase every year. Those are the only ones I can think of since Middle of Nowhere. We did every other year, and when YouTube came along, that kind of served a lot of that need. And burning DVDs with, if you've ever tried to compile songs or whatever from local producers, getting 20 DV tapes onto a DVD for a playback at the Joyo was half the adventure right there.
I bet. I bet. Well, I just love the idea of using an old theater like that too. The Joyo is magical, and it needs to be. It definitely needs to be used more often. And didn't they put some money into it recently? I think
new seats are in, I believe.
New seats, yeah, yep. Okay, that's good. It's such a cool theater. It needs to be used, no doubt. Well, this looks fun, man. We should get this going again. This would be super cool to do.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
You
Well,
know
that's
what?
the
There is one new not Prairie Lights. They had their last year in Grand Island last year, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it, but they're going to have it in Seward at the Rivoli.
Oh, okay.
Depending on Corona, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
between that and the Sandy Dennis Film Festival, I think they're going to be able to do theirs in real life in the Hastings IMAX Theater. Those are the two other festivals that have come and gone through the years, and I want to say I'm totally going to blank it, but I'll put a link in the description later to the team kind of carrying on the spirit of Prairie Lights, where everyone can enter. There is no fee to enter, and it's a celebration more than a competition.
Wow. That is awesome. And does the World Theater do anything in Kearney? Because they're great. The people up there are so fantastic.
Oh, for sure. I don't know of a film festival per se, but he does all kinds of stuff with being connected to John Bokenkamp and the Blacklist. They screen every new episode as it airs.
So the Blacklist, for those that don't know, the Blacklist is a show that's very popular on television right now, and John Bokenkamp, the producer of that show, is actually from Kearney, Nebraska. Yep. So he invested quite a bit of money to renovate the old World Theater. And actually, Bryce, the manager of that, who runs it every day, is a good friend of ours. And the Bottle Tops have played music up there quite a bit and just love it. We just love the World Theater.
Bryce is awesome. I want to say John plopped down a certain amount of money, and I believe the community raised $1 million to rehab it.
Wow.
If I remember right, it was a big number. I think it was $1 million.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into it. And now they're sustaining themselves in the midst of COVID by doing drive-in movies. And they've been sold out constantly. It's just an incredible support system up there.
Super jealous. If I knew a bunch of shipping container people and crane operator, be all over that. But I'm totally jealous of their drive-in theater.
Yeah, there's a drive-in movie thing happening on the 10th and 11th of July at the Stadium Club down by Memorial Stadium. They're showing Lion King.
Oh, nice.
So check that out if anybody wants to do that locally in Lincoln. I've been hearing more and more of those pop up. So, well, this is cool. This is very cool. Well, I won't ponder too much on this, but I do want to bring up your website just to let's hold on just a second.
Sure.
I'm gonna stop sharing this, and let's talk a little bit about Vizzyness and kind of where what you're doing. How has it changed your business to move forward in the future? What do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? I guess I should say short term.
Over the winter, I see a little more of the same. Like, I haven't necessarily chopped up. I take that back. One of the projects I worked on this summer was doing a remote video for Omaha Summer Arts Festival. We were going to go up to Wisconsin and interview them in person, but we decided that's not safe. So I literally recorded a Zoom interview with 2 artists in Wisconsin and chopped it up into a 5-minute playback for the live event they did with Omaha musicians and filmmakers. And there was 4 other films about Omaha area artists. So that was a lot of fun. Vizzyness, as we go forward, like, I anticipate a lot of the same one-man banding and chopping up interviews into compelling marketing content as we figure out what our next story is going to be.
Right. Well, I know stuff comes to you, and I hit you up for video work, and you hit me up for video work. We've teamed up on a lot of cool projects, even some federal stuff where we had to sign secret papers. I won't go into that, but that was interesting. But yeah, we've captured some really fun stuff together. And not only that, you've actually filmed a couple of music videos, or at least been a part of a couple. And then the big one, Leslie Arnold, that you did with me, kind of a shotgun production in 7 days. That was pretty awesome. And I think, doing stuff that quick is like, it can really, stir some really cool activity. I couldn't believe the community support when we did that. Came together so fast and whipped that project out in about 7 to 14 days. Had a big premiere at the Zoo Bar, and it's just wonderful. I really urge people to use Rhett. He's really great and professional. Vizzyness.com. That's Vizzyness.com if you have any video projects out there. But yeah, you can find tons of more information and kind of, see your style, what you're up to. Some really cool stuff, man. Very cool.
Yeah. So, I'm lucky to have been doing this for 2 decades now. So it was the right place at the right time to move from ad agency world to one-man band and doing what I do as a dad. Yeah, there's my resume.
There's your resume. You got some Fire Spring video producer on here. Snitley Car was a big place back in the day. They used to do all the big, even international.
I got to shoot the tunnel walk twice.
Yeah, the tunnel walk from Nebraska football, and looks like you did some Time Warner stuff. Yeah, you got a nice pathway to where you're at now, and I'm really proud of you for kind of going out on your own. And I know that can be danger zone for a lot of folks, but you seem to be doing okay. I remember when you made that transition, and it was kind of a touch and go type situation. But yeah, you've done it. You've
lucky enough to have a wonderful family support group and health insurance from my teacher wife, but you too can live the dream. Yeah.
Well, that's, it is what it is. When I decided to go on my own, we took the nasty plunge. I always like to call it. That's because it's a metaphor. You don't really know what's going to happen, and you don't know where you're going to be 6 months to a year from that point. And you got to have confidence and just take the bull by the horns and just do it. So
I bought my first drone, and I'm 3/4 of the way through the book to get my Part 107 and adding that to a
great
robotic gimbal cameraman to accompany me on some of these.
Oh, that's shoots. Great. The drone world I actually own one, and I'm not licensed, but I don't do a lot of commercial shoots with it. Actually, I don't do any. But I just do for personal use. But the one I bought, I think, is pretty excessive. It's huge. I could probably put a child on it and fly, and fly my child around. But yeah, I've been messing with it more and more. But it seems like a lot of folks are going that way and doing some really great stuff with that. So,
yep. You brought that up. Yeah. I had avoided it for a long time and decided to push myself during different time, and the technologies there were Mavic Air 2, other than not the top end camera part, but it's 4K, 60 frames a second, and auto everything. Like, that is exactly what I need for my first drone.
That's incredible. That is very cool. Well, you will always be my go-to guy for video stuff, especially for creative projects that hit my brain, because you somehow understand my weirdness, and you'll go along with it, which is great. And there's no price tag for that.
We speak of the weirdo.
Yes. But we're also very fun. We do some fun projects together. But man, I know that you've got to are you taking a family trip today?
Headed up to Grandma's to watch the fireworks up in Norfolk. There's no official Big Bang Boom, but I believe they've moved it all to the community college north of town. And tonight at 9:45, they're doing a test firework to see if you can spot it from your home in Norfolk.
There you go. Wow. So find your spot. That's great. They're going to shoot one firework off. You have to be at the right place at the right time at that time.
Tonight is the 3rd, so this is their test event for the 4th.
Oh, I see. This is great.
I was confused too. I'm like, just one? How about 3? How about
can we maybe do more than one?
Right? If you missed it.
Fun. Well, Norfolk's a great city. I actually spent a lot of time growing up in Norfolk, and
I remember that.
Tons of family in Norfolk, and I actually just went back there and played a show outside at their great steakhouse up there. It's called the Black Cow Fat Pig restaurant. And
Norfolk has a ton of fine dining now, and their mayor is awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Their plans for solar are amazing. Norfolk is going to be a solar leader.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's really cool.
Maybe not beating Lincoln, but I'm just saying, like, Norfolk's mayor, Josh Manning, I believe, is awesome.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. That's
Yeah.
great to hear. That's great to hear. Like I said, I've got a ton of family up there, and every time I drive to Norfolk, I make sure to leave an hour early, because I know I'm going to be driving around looking at all the old sights and sounds, and kind of new, just seeing how it's changed over the years. But it looks like it's doing just fine. It's growing, and I hope Divots survives this mess, because they've been doing a lot of great shows out there, the Divot Performance Center out there. So they put a ton of money into that hotel and everything. So, I'm going to let you get going. I know that you had to jump on the road, but this has been really great. I appreciate you tuning in to the town hall. I hope some people learned some stuff. We didn't dig deep, but maybe some night we'll jump on and talk video more in depth. I know, you know so much about the technical aspect of it, when you're shooting, how to do certain shots, how to do what gear to use. I want to get more into that. So if anybody has those questions, I implore you to reach out to Rhett and ask him. What's your email, Rhett?
Easiest email to get a hold of me for business or pleasure, rhettt@gmail. 3 T's.
There you go. rhettt@gmail. You got it, folks. Hit up Rhett if you have any questions or need any video work. He's doing great stuff. So awesome, my man. I appreciate you doing this in the midst of all this wackiness and streaming from home. I'm glad our signal's held tight, but drive safe. Much love to you and the family, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Sam. Say hi to the fam.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right.
See you later.
Later, Mike.
All right. Bye-bye. That was Rhett McClure, ladies and gentlemen, from Vizzyness, Vizzyness. It's a cool Scottish term. I didn't realize. I learned something every day. So this is great. But yeah, hit up Rhett if you want to talk video work. He does a lot of really cool stuff. If you have a video project and you want him involved or me involved, let us know. Him and I work together a lot. So really fantastic small business. It looks like he's holding tight, doing what he can, and doing the right pivot stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in to episode 15. We appreciate it. Spread the word. Share this stream if you want. And if you have any ideas of people and small businesses that you haven't seen yet, please reach out to me, and I'd love to get them on. I'm always looking for new people to come on and talk. So I've got episode 15. I'm trying not to, redo the same folks. I want to get new people on. So hit me up and let me know. I think I'm going to continue to do this. I have such a great time doing it. And I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching and kind of sharing and saying how they've seen it. And so I know the word's getting out there, but I think it's another opportunity for a local business to get their voice out there and get their message out there in their business plan. So give me a holler. Much love, everybody. Happy Friday. Be safe and take care of each other. We'll see you next time. See you later. Bye-bye.